We all know the workplace has gone digital, right? But what if the tools we're using every day are actually quietly rewriting the very rules of leadership? Well, a brand new study has some pretty surprising answers on how technology is forging smarter, better teams, and we're about to break it all down. I mean, let's be honest, this question probably hits pretty close to home for a lot of us. That post-2020 boom was like a tidal wave of new apps and platforms, wasn't it? We all adapted because, well, we had to. But just adapting isn't the same as actually making progress. So how do we cut through all that digital noise and figure out what truly drives performance? This study gives us a fantastic roadmap to do just that.
To really understand where we are now, we have to take a quick look back. The massive disruptions of the last few years didn't just nudge us toward going digital. They basically launched us into it, forcing this incredibly rapid and, let's face it, sometimes chaotic shift in every single part of doing business.
It really felt like we were all thrown into the deep end of the pool, didn't it? Companies everywhere were scrambling just to stay afloat, grabbing onto any new tech they could find. But as we've all learned, just treading water isn't the same as winning the race. And this brings us to the big, crucial question the research set out to answer. Which of these digital tools actually build better leaders and create stronger teams?
Okay, so before we jump into the amazing results, we need to get on the same page about what we're even talking about. The study zeroed in on 4 key concepts that make up what you could call the modern digital toolkit. So let's break them down one by one.
First up, we've got digital marketing. Now, this is probably the most visible piece of the whole puzzle. And it's so much more than just running a few ads online. It's the entire game plan for how a company uses channels, think search engines, email, you name it, to connect with customers and turn that visibility into real, tangible business results.
Next, of course, is social media. We all use it in our personal lives, but for a business, it's a total two-way street. It is a super powerful tool, not just for, shouting your message out, but for listening, getting instant feedback, and building a genuine community that actually feels connected to your brand.
Now, this is where things get really interesting. Digital transformation. I want you to think way bigger than just some fancy new software. This is about fundamentally rewiring the entire organization from the inside out. We're talking everything from the supply chain to HR, using technology to smash those old silos, make smarter decisions, and just become way more agile.
And finally, we have the most important piece of all, the human element, digital leadership. This isn't about code, it's a skill. It's about a leader having the vision to see how all this tech can drive success, and maybe more importantly, having the ability to inspire their team to come along for the ride and embrace that change. Okay, so we've got our key terms defined. Where did the researchers actually go to put all these ideas to the test? They went right inside the Amman Stock Exchange, which gave them this perfect real-world, high-stakes environment to see how these digital tools actually perform under pressure. And to make sure they got a really clear picture, they didn't just talk to a handful of top-level managers. Nope, they gathered data from 327 employees across every single level of the organization, from officers all the way to the frontline customer-facing staff.
So how did they connect all the dots? It's actually a pretty straightforward chain of events. First, they looked at the tools being used, the marketing, social media, and that big transformation piece. Then, they measured how those tools were actually shaping the leadership. And for the final piece of the puzzle, they tracked how that leadership, in turn, affected actual employee performance on the ground.
So, we have the concepts, we have the method, now it's time for the payoff. What did the data from those 327 employees actually show? Let's dive into the results, because this is the good stuff.
This is the million-dollar question for pretty much every business leader out there, right? After all the time, all the money, all the effort you pour into new tech, does it actually move the needle? Well, according to this research, the answer is a big, loud yes. Just look at this table. The findings are incredibly consistent. The data showed a clear, positive link right across the board. Every single digital tool they looked at had a positive impact on both leadership and performance. And crucially, that improved digital leadership then directly boosted the performance of the entire team. It's like a complete, positive chain reaction. Hey, don't just take my word for it. The study's own abstract puts it perfectly. The impact isn't just there, it's complex and wide-ranging. And that's a key point. This isn't about one single tool giving you a simple fix. It's about how all these digital pieces work together to fundamentally change the way an organization works.
But here's the kicker. It wasn't an even split. While all the digital tools were helpful, one of them was in a completely different league. As you can see from the data, digital transformation was by far the most powerful driver of change. And this is the key insight right here. It's not about using tools in pieces. A deep, strategic integration of technology across the entire business, that's what creates the massive leap forward in leadership and performance.
So, what does all this mean for you? I mean, these findings came from a stock exchange, but they have huge implications for any organization in any industry. So let's translate this research into action. What does this mean for your company's digital future?
So, what are the big takeaways here for any leader watching this? Well, first, you've got to cultivate resilient digital leadership. That's the engine for all of this change. Second, make sure your strategies are integrated. A standalone social media plan just isn't going to cut it anymore. It has to be part of a bigger, holistic digital transformation. And third, and this is so important, invest in your people. This is all about building a culture of innovation by giving your team the skills they need to really thrive.
Look, if you remember just one thing from this whole breakdown, let it be this. The technology is just the tool. The real transformation, the magic, happens when you empower your people and you cultivate leaders who know how to use those tools to their absolute fullest potential.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty important question. It's easy to get excited about new gadgets and new software, but as you look at your own organization, the real question is this. You probably have the tools, but do you have the leadership to truly thrive?